I remember when I was a child, I decided I wanted to be in the NFL, and quickly realized that I was not going to be fast enough or big enough to do that. So I moved my endeavors to trying to be a comic book illustrator, and I remember tirelessly putting together a portfolio and presenting it to DC Comics and getting laughed out of the room because it was so bad. And then later on, I thought I'd do a modest goal of trying a marathon, a small one, and that about blew my kneecaps off. And so 2 years ago, about 38 years old, I decided, that life was just going to be sort of just bobbing through like a log in a river, and just kind of bouncing off left and right of the bank of, mediocrity. And I've done big things. I've worked for the Wall Street Journal as an illustrator, and I was an illustrator for Coke, and also had worked even on the Shrek franchise, and so I'd done things. I was so empty, and I remember I had to go meet a client in Birmingham, and I left the client meeting, and then somewhere along the line, I just didn't get home till really late, and came in, and my wife went, "Where have you been?" And I was like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Well, what did you do?" I was like, "I don't know." And she was really concerned, and she's like, "I think you need a hobby or a goal or something." And I said, "Yeah, maybe so." And so I decided that I was sitting at working for the Wall Street Journal, and just doing some sketches and to do for another article, and I remember looking up, and there was a movie behind me called Ride the Divide on TV, and it was about a near 3,000 mile bike race that was supposed to be the toughest bike race in the world, and also the longest. And you start in Canada, and you go all the way down to Mexico, and you're on the Continental Divide in the backwoods with bears and ruffians and all sorts kind of things. And basically, if you need water, you find it. If your tire flattens, you fix it yourself. And if you need food, you find it. And I thought, this seems like a great goal. And so I picked the Tour Divide, and I started training for it. And I would start pedaling and going up and down hills, and my friends would say, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, that's cool. It's this 3,000 mile bike race, or near 3,000, and it's going to be neat, and you're going through Canada and everything." And their mouths would open wide, and their eyes would get big, and they'd go, "You're crazy." And I said, "Well, yeah, I guess you have to have a few screws loose to do that." But I trained for 2 years, and off to Canada I went. And there was me and 157 other bike racers took off heading towards Mexico, and it was beautiful, and it was agonizing, and it was hard, and it was fun, and you'd climb forever on a hill, and then you'd go flying down a mountain, and it was great. And the general procession of the race would be, the day would start out awesome, and then it would just tank. Like this day was 80 degrees when I was riding, and I thought, gosh, this feels so good. And it was about 8 o'clock at night, and I got to the base of a mountain, and I thought, oh, I can get up that. It's 15, 20 miles up, no problem. And I started going up. It's on a trail, and everything's fine. It's getting darker, and as I look on my bike computer, the temperature was showing 70 degrees, 60 degrees, 40, 32, and then it got down below freezing. Well, I was sweating profusely, and that started to freeze up. Now, I'm born and raised just right down the road at Guntersville, Alabama, and I hate the cold with a passion. Love heat, can't stand cold, so I was already not happy about this. And as I got off a trail, and then it turned into a fire road, and I thought, okay, this is better, because this is what Jeeps and cars at least attempt to go over. And I thought, well, I've got some room and everything, and went around a corner, and there was a sign that said, "Warning, Grizzly activity. Don't be here alone, and make sure all your food is in an airtight bag." Well, I had bags all over this bike here, and stuffed in every one of them was beef jerky and a half-eaten sandwich and pizza and candy bars. And I thought, well, logically, what can I do? And not having much common sense, I was like, I'll just eat it all. And so I reached in to grab the first thing was a candy bar, and that was the only thing that wasn't frozen in the below freezing weather, and it was all melted, so I got it all over my hands, and I was going like that, and it got all over my shorts, and I thought, boy, why don't I just get a Sharpie and put, "Eat me, bear, now." So I was really nervous, and I thought, gosh, this is bad. And I said, well, I've got my iPod. I'll listen to music, and I'll be fine. And so I pulled my iPod out, put the earphones in, and turned it on, and it was Miley Cyrus, but not twerking Miley Cyrus, the Hannah Montana Miley Cyrus, because I'd copied my children's playlist onto my iPod instead of my playlist on there. So I was like, gosh, song's awful. So I hit forward, and it went from Molly to Keisha's TikTok, or Keisha, or Key $, however you say her name. But it was that, and I said, God, I hate this song too. And I hit forward again, and because my iPod was stuck here, it got sweat damage, and got stuck on TikTok. So that's all I had to listen to all the way up the mountain. But now it's 12, and it's starting to get into the high 20s, and I remember biking, and it went back into a trail, and it's pitch black dark, and I had one little light on my helmet, and I remember putting my foot down to rest, and I heard crunch, and I looked down, and about here I was submerged in snow, and I thought, gosh, this is terrible, and because I hate cold feet worse than I hate being cold. And I thought, well, I'll just move this foot over on this edge, but there was nothing to put my foot on, and I took my light and shone down, and there was like the tips of trees, and yeah, the mountain went like this, and then a little bit of trail, and then that. And so I was like, well, if I fall, I guess it's bad. And so I evoked Murphy's Law by saying, it just can't get any worse than this. And that's when I smelled smoke. And above me, the trees had been struck by lightning, by a freak storm, and so now there's smoke billowing down. And I just remember there's smoke coming down, and I'm freezing cold, and I've got chocolate all over me, and all I could do is figure out how could I shift this blame. So I was like, thanks, Obama. And realized that I was going to be on my own for the rest of this trip, or at least so I thought I was going to be alone. Sometimes when the chips were down, some people would show up. And I remember being in the Great Basin, and that's the Wyoming Great Basin desert and everything. And I remember traveling through there. And first of all, the Great Basin is it's not flat. As you can see, there's hills that go up, and I remember I was riding with this fellow right here, and we'd been going for, I don't know, 2-3 million hours, and I remember I got a glass of water, or I grabbed my water bottle, and I thought, God, that's really low. Have I really been chugging? It's like, we've only got like 20 miles left. And I was like, we got like 20 miles left, right, man? And he's like, no, we got like 120 left. And I was like, work on that math. I remember cresting this mountain and seeing a lake, and I said, oh my God, it's a lake, we're fine. And he looked back at me and he said, no, that is a mirage. And it was the first time I'd ever seen a mirage. And we kept going, and I saw another mirage, which was a town, and I started imagining that there would be a woman making pie, and her husband would have just beer waiting for me and everything. And I was like, but it's all make-believe. But it wasn't make-believe. It really was a town in the middle of nowhere. And I told the guy, I was like, look, it's a town. And he just looked back with a stretched mouth. He said, and that's a ghost town. And I was like, oh, no. And I said, but I'm going to go down there anyway. Maybe there's water somewhere. And I remember traveling through the ghost town, and it's everything that you can imagine. The buildings are this way, and the wind's flapping the shutters, and I was waiting for a horde of zombies to come up. I mean, it's a perfect horror movie. Died on the Divide, Part 4. And so I remember going through and just kind of looking around and also worrying for my safety. And I looked, and down an alleyway, there was a four-wheeler, all-terrain vehicle, and I was like, somebody lives there. And I went riding all over to his house as quick as possible and started banging on the door. And I thought, God, this is the horror movie. This is how the guy's going to be an axe murderer. And I heard some movement in there, and I was like, Brian, that was really dumb. And so he opens up the door, and he's about this tall, and he's got brilliant blue eyes, because I think they've got cataracts on him now, and he's got leathery skin, and he speaks in an accent that I I was told it was Basque. I don't know, something non-American. And so I asked him, I said, I'm out of water. Can you fill it up for me, please? And he said, well, follow me around back. And I was like, back is where the saw is. And there was a well that he had and like hundreds of sheep out in the middle of nowhere. And I realized he's a sheep herder that I guess he just, I don't know, with other sheep herders, trades and sells sheep and whatever. But he gave me some and he wasn't mean or friendly or anything. He was there to help you out. And I found out, sometimes when chips are down, yeah, there's humans that will give you a hand. And I thought, gosh, what a poor job of me judging people, and I'll do better next time. But of course I didn't. And as I was coming out of Colorado and into New Mexico, which I thought was flat. I mean, I always thought New Mexico, nope, not at all. It's like this the whole time. So I remember the mountain coming out and climbing up, and as I was going up this mountain, it was just me, and I was just kind of keeping my thoughts to myself, and I saw two figures up at the top, and I thought, I wonder what those guys are doing. And so as I continued to bike up, they get closer, and they're walking like this, and I thought, this isn't good. They look rough. And so I thought, well, I'll move my bike to the left of the road and just kind of get around them. They were still far away from each other. Well, they moved to the left, and I said a cuss word, a few. And then I moved to the right, and they moved to the right. And I thought, well, I'm about to probably experience some physical pain. And all I could think of was that I would rest my arm on my bike like this, and maybe I can and knock both of them out at once and slowly go up the mountain. And as I got this close to them, they extended their hands out, and they're like, way to go, man, hell of a job. And they were hunting racers, but to say hello to them. And I was so relieved that when I tried to reach out my hand, as you can see, I'm falling. And that's why the picture is going that way. But they helped me up and patted me on the back and got over that part. And I thought, gosh, how terrible that I did that. And gosh, it's just crazy. And speaking of crazy, there was this guy that's coming up in just a second. And this is Billy. And as I said, all racers are kind of nuts that do this. I mean, you just don't start in Canada and go down to Mexico if there's not one or two screws loose in the head somewhere. And so there's that. But what about the guy that decides that he'll start in Mexico, go up to Canada, then go back down to Mexico? And he was going to do what was called, just kind of a yo-yo ride there. And I remember crossing him in Canada as I was leaving Canada, and I was heading towards Mexico, and he was leaving towards Canada, going towards Canada, and I said, hey, you're that Billy fella that's doing that. He's like, hey, man, how you doing? And I was like, God, you're really energetic to have come all the way up, from Mexico to Canada. And I would ride my ride towards Mexico, and we would stop at little towns, a little tracker on your bike so people could see where you are. And I would see Billy getting closer and closer and closer to me. And then in a town called Abiquiu, New Mexico, he caught me. And I remember riding on a trail and seeing lights come up behind me at night. And it was Billy. I was like, wow, hey, Billy, it's you again. He's like, hey, man, how you doing? And I was like, well, I'm fine. And you're still really excited. He's like, hey, you know what? We should go get a room at Abiquiu. And I said, hey, that's great. And we got there, and the only room left was the honeymoon suite with the red heart-shaped pillow bed and fireplace. And I was like, okay, no snuggling. And and after we did each other's nails and had a pillow fight, I said, Billy, how are you doing this, these big giant miles? He goes, well, what you do is you get these 4 packs of Red Bull and you drink them all at once. You can stay awake forever. And he just fell asleep in his bed. And so the next morning, I get up, and we're having breakfast, and I said, Billy, really, how are you doing this? He said, well, you smile and stay positive, because the minute that you don't stay positive, you lose the race. And I said, that's great advice. And so for the rest of the race, I did stay positive. And I work at UAB in the digital media department, and basically our team services the school's needs for websites, graphic design, media in any types in general. And so I park my car, and my only riding my bike really sees these days is across campus, and take my bike and I put it into my office, and it sits motionless behind me. So I work at a computer, and I have stressful days like you guys do, and I have bad days like you guys do, and sometimes my computer messes up and I'm banging on stuff, and I'm frustrated. And I spin around and I look at my bike, and I just sit and stare at it for a moment, and this happens. 2 years ago, I started training for this race. I was 55 pounds heavier than you see me today. An extremely inexperienced mountain biker, terrified of the dark, and just had slight fear of bears. I finished the race. I finished fourth in my category, 40th overall at the age of 40. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. If you'll permit, thank you. If you'll permit me one quick story, I was going over, it was in Colorado, and I was just going up a hill, and I was just out of gas and had no power in my legs, and going about a half mile to an eighth of a mile per hour, just chugging up a mountain. I wanted to quit the race. I hated it. And then I just said, you know, just forward motion, Scott, just pedal on. And that's how I finished most of the race. So that's me. And what about you and your dream or goal? And you know, maybe you don't want to do a 3,000-mile bike race or near 3,000. I get it. But maybe you want to ask that person out for coffee, or stare at your boss and say, hey, I need a raise because I'm worth it. Or just get out and walk 1 mile. That's huge and big. And I'm here to tell you, big things, whether you may think they're small, they're hard, and it's hard to get through them. And sometimes pushing through your fears is what you have to do. But I found the most is what Billy told me, is to smile and be positive and pedal on. Thank you.